Hello friend, welcome back to my channel. It's Tim here. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. I'm really excited for this video. I've really wanted to share my painting process and test out a more relaxed and chill kind of paint with me and chat kind of tutorial. So included here are the hex codes that you will need to paint this painting with me. And I've included here a rough trace sketch of the painting so that way you can have a guide to follow along with. In this video, I will share all of my painting process for creating this piece. Plus, I wanted to give you a challenge. I would love to see this piece painted in your own art style, so if you decide to do this, please tag me at Timstarstudio on Instagram. I would absolutely love to see it. So please let me know below if you end up liking this kind of video format. I didn't end up editing out most of the goofs, which I usually do, and surprisingly, I kind of ended up liking it. I kind of really wanted to just let the editing happen in real time naturally rather than being sped up. I did enjoy filming it this way, and this video is definitely longer than my other ones, but I definitely want to do more like this. So if you're ready, let's begin. All right, so let's start our painting. We've got our trace layer turned on, and I'm going to turn the trace layer down to about, not that low, probably about 13% or so, or 14%. And then I'm going to add a new layer underneath, and we're going to start building our sunset. So I'm going to start with this bright white color, this yellowy white, and then I'm going to take the soft airbrush. I'm going to lay a stripe of color over the center. Build in a nice little gradient. So I'm going to next I'm going to take this little peachy color, put that over top, and we're just going to follow down the line of color, just placing a stripe of color over top of itself, creating a nice gradual gradient. Oh, I love that shade of red. I may actually take this little pink color too. I wasn't sure if I was going to use it or not, but I think I am going to use it. So we're going to take that shade of pink and put that in the middle. And I'm going to take this purple and put it right on top. So after that, in the last color, we're going to finish that off with blue. It's kind of like a dreamy periwinkle navy blue. Then I'm going to take Gaussian blur and blur it out. Yes, that creates like a perfect gradation. So next I'm going to add a new layer, and still using the soft airbrush, we're going to take, sorry, I've got so many palettes open too. We're going to take this shade of blue here. Looks like that is the 5th color in the 2nd row. Actually, I'm going to lay a stripe, that'll be easier. Yep. Okay, so once you got the stripe, just going to fill that in a little bit more. Leave that be. And then in the middle of these, I'm going to take this white color and go and add our sun. So I'm going to paint a little circle until it clicks, and then I'm going to press with my thumb to get it a perfect circle and then fill that in, and we have our sun. So I'm going to drop that below the water line. That's a super easy way to create a sun too. I'm trying to see. I'm going to turn this off for just a second. I think it needs to be just a little bit bigger. What do you guys think? Yeah, I need to be a little bit bigger. Okay, so I'm going to turn that trace layer back on. And see, like, even my guide is just a guide. Just more like guidelines. I don't know if you guys catch that. Do you guys like Pirates of the Caribbean? We watch that series a lot, so I've got lots of pirate quotes living rent-free in my head. So next, we're going to start building up our clouds. So going to soft light, we're going to take this really dark maroon color. I'm going to take the damp brush to about 8% or so, and we're going to drop it to about medium opacity. We're going to start shading some clouds in, and you don't have to worry about putting anything too distinct down. We're just kind of creating an overall haziness, just with a really light hand and light pressure. Kind of just working the color in from both sides, kind of creating a little bit of a vignette around the edges. deepening some of that color. And using soft light, honestly, just using all of the different overlay functions can give you a bunch of different shades that weren't originally in your palette, but they go so well together, and you're basically just working smarter and not harder, and giving yourself more stuff to work with without having to have a huge palette, which is really nice. Ugh, I love those colors together. Gonna darken that up just a little bit more. And you can do this as much cloud or as little cloud as you like. I kind of want like a really smoky evening. So we're going to take a little bit of that dark color and run it over the ocean. Kind of just creating a little bit of a shadow around the edges. And we'll start adding highlights here in a little bit, but right now just kind of sketching in where some areas of darkness is going to live. And I always much prefer to start with too little and go darker rather than starting too much, because it's really hard to get rid of it and takes more time. So I'd much rather take the time and just build it up gradually. Okay, we're going to take the blending brush. We're going to use, I'm going to go back up here, go back to the damp brush. About medium, 60% or so opacity, with a slightly small, actually I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, about a medium-sized brush. We're going to lightly blend that out. We don't want anything too distinct yet. Clouds are kind of a variegation of hard edges and soft edges, so it's best to build up the smoky stuff, the softer edges first. Yeah, I like that. And we're going to lightly blend out the water. Okay, so next I'm going to add a new layer. We're going to keep that same color, and I'm going to put that layer in hard light. Probably put it about 30% or so just to see what it looks like. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to take that and make that a little bit hazy. Sorry if you guys can hear the tapping too, I'm not sure. Wait till we get to a little bit later when I go to paint the bushes. There'll be all kinds of tapping then. And this is kind of a, I'd say, a looser style tutorial. So this one I didn't just record and then record an audio over top. I kind of wanted to try this as we go just to see how it turns out. So you'll have to let me know if you like this more freestyle. I just feel like sometimes with the other style, it's very like, you guys, I can't really talk a whole lot. It's all just like, I can't really riff with myself. It's very routine. It's very scripted. And so I kind of wanted to see, you know, what this would be like off the cuff, because I'm crazy like that. Getting crazy over here. I'm a wild and crazy guy. I love painting sunsets. Kind of just building in some of that color as we go down, creating kind of a hazy look. I love using hard light to add a little bit of smokiness to the color. Kind of takes a little bit of the saturation away and doesn't make it quite as like stark. And we're going to just lightly blend that out. Okay. So next I'm going to add another layer. I think I'm going to do, let's do soft light and start with that and see if we can build that up just a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. Actually, I'm going to turn the opacity of that up just a little bit. Yes. Gives us just a little bit of a harder edge. Kind of just adding some clouds in around the top. really making it look like the sun is setting fast. I'm gonna add a little bit more color around the edges. And I'm gonna lightly blend it out. Just using a really light hand and kind of a circular scrubbing motion. Just being careful not to completely get rid of all of the texture, but just lightly buffing out any hard edges. We're really starting to see the clouds take shape, which is always a fun thing. This is really fun for me too, because it really makes me think like off the cuff. And eventually I'd love to do live streaming as well. I just have to figure out my setup, and that'll be a later down the road thing. But that is definitely on the docket of things to do. Oh, I love these colors together. Gonna lightly blend the water. I hope you guys are enjoying this. This is definitely different for me because I am so used to having everything like all the T's dotted and the I's crossed. But one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to do this and see if it even works out, I paint so much, but the tutorials themselves, the audio recording takes so long to record a voiceover, and it kind of like I end up 4 and 5 paintings behind because I can't record the audio that fast. So I wanted to see if this would be something that I could work on over time and get better at it, because I'm sure this one might be a little rough, but we'll get through it together. And if you have any questions so far, just let me know below. We're just kind of going in and lightly blending back and forth, just really blending any soft edges, kind of creating the impression of like puffy clouds. I'm just lightly blending over the edges of that. Okay, so next I'm going to go in and add a new layer. We're going to go back to this like white bright yellow color. Smaller brush, probably about 5%, and about 52% or so opacity. Anywhere in that neighborhood is good. But I'm going to lightly go in, start adding some highlights. And we're just kind of highlighting where would be the base, like the bottom part of the cloud. Just kind of giving the impression that the light is touching it just ever so softly. Just kind of going back and forth. Taking a little bit smaller brush and adding some finer lines in there. Now I'm kind of going in a zigzag motion just to create a little bit of variegation, kind of just breaking up the look of that a little bit. Okay, once you're happy with as much as you have, and I think I am, I'm going to go down with like 35% or so opacity, and then about 9, somewhere in there, about 10% or so opacity. So with a really light hand, we're going to lightly blend that out, just kind of softening it up. We don't want to lose that texture because I actually like it a lot. I went and saw The Little Mermaid this weekend, and I was absolutely blown away. It was such a beautiful movie, and you have to let me know if you guys saw it below, but I am so inspired by the ocean and the water right now. I had to do another sunset painting, and I may do another after that. I don't know. We're going to add a little bit more to the clouds later on, but I think for now, I think I'm okay with that. The only thing I wanted to do here, we're going to go in with soft light, and then go back with this dark black color. This brush again, and I'm going to add just a little bit more color right in there. I felt like it was still a little too light. It wouldn't be that light naturally, that far away from the sun. We kind of want to keep the glow. around the lighted area. And I'm going to just lightly blend that out. Okay. Okay, once you're happy with that, we're going to go in with overlay again. Go back to the white color. Actually, no. Let's go to this peach color, which is the second color in the first row. And we're going to create just a little bit of shadow right here. Nothing too crazy because we want to make sure that this the ocean stays blue. We don't want to make it all yellow or peachy, but just to create a little bit of a reflection. Then I'm going to add another new layer, put in overlay again. Now we're going to go to that white color, and I'm going to lightly blend out where that's at. Actually, let's get rid of that and put that in overlay again. And pick that peach color, bring up that. I feel like one is too light. I'm going to fix that. So we're going to go to hue and saturation, and we're going to turn that a little bit more yellow, and bring up the brightness a little bit, bring up the saturation. Now we're going to lightly blend. Oh, now we're going to lightly blend that out. Perfect. And create a nice little glow on the ocean. So next we are going to add another new layer. We're going to take this dark shade of green, going back to the soft airbrush, and we're going to create our land. So we're going to take that all the way up to the ocean line. And then this color right here, that is the sixth color in the second row. We're going to create some grass. I almost said grass. So I meant to say we're going to cover the grass up and put some sand in there. And then I'm going to go back to using the damp brush again. About 10% or so size. Go to about 50% or so opacity. We're going to go in with the third green in the third row. We're going to slightly add some new color over top of that, just softening it up. And it is okay if the sand and the new grass that you're putting on kind of overlap a little bit. A lot of this is going to get covered with bushes anyways, but just kind of softening that up. Okay, once you get that, we're going to go in with the fourth color in the third row. Kind of just create a couple of grassy areas. We're going to take the opacity down, take the size down a little bit. And just lightly start adding some definition. And I'm doing this with a very light hand as well. Okay, I'm going to go to soft. We're going to blur that out. I think I was trying to say soft airbrush, but I meant to say we're going back to the blur brush. And now we're going to lightly blend that out. And that is still using the damp brush with the blur brush. Blur brush. And it is okay if these areas slightly overlap because it's going to make it kind of look like the sand is going into the grass, which is what you want. We're just lightly blending that out. And then I'm going to take it even smaller, about 5%, same opacity, and we're going to lightly blend over the shoreline. Kind of just softening that up a little bit. It's okay if some of the white starts to peek out. We'll fix that here in a second. And I took away the brush cursor too. I don't know if you guys noticed that or not. If it's annoying and you want it back, just let me know below. I was doing some painting earlier and I took it off because it was annoying me. But for tutorials, it's really helpful because I can show right where it's at. You know, I think I'm just going to turn it back on just for the moment. There we go. Yeah, I think that'll be better. I'm kind of just dragging that color into the grass and the grass into the sand. Okay, so I'm gonna go, this layer that the grass is on, I'm just gonna duplicate that so now it covers up the white area underneath. That's a really easy way to get rid of that when that happens. Since it was we weren't really using a transparency there, we were just kind of filling it in. It just really helps a lot. Okay. So now that we've got a little bit of our shoreline going, we're going to start painting our trees and bushes. So I'm going to turn the opacity up just a little bit. That way I can see where they're supposed to go. I'm going to go back underneath of it. And using that dark green again, that's the second color in the third row. Actually, I'm going to go to the water pen. That'll be easier to lay it down with. We're going to start sketching in where our bushes are going to be at. Actually, no. We're going to get rid of that. We're going to go to this color, the third color in the third row. I'm going to use that color first. Sorry about that. This is what it is when it's live. I may go back in and edit that out. I don't know. So I'm going to fill this one in over here as well. Now we're going to take this darker color, that's the second color in the third row now, and put that as the bushes in the back wet. That way they look a little bit darker. That's why I got rid of it. Okay, so once you got those on there, I'm going to go back to the blur brush. I'm going to turn that back down just a little bit. We're going to lightly blend that out. Just kind of doing a sweeping, mopping motion. Then I'm going to lightly blend the edges too. That way they kind of just blur in with the grass. This area will be fun later because you actually kind of want to leave it a little more transparent because that's going to become a highlight color for the bush later on, which will be fun. Just kind of doing a circular scrubbing motion, really just rounding the edges of those bushes out and then lightly blending in the bottom. If you have any questions below, definitely let me know. This will definitely be different. I'm kind of excited to see how this is going to turn out. So, I'm going to just repeat the process on this one. Okay, now that we've got the base down, I may make a copy of that layer and turn it down just a little bit. Yep, we're going to merge those two together. Going to turn this off. I'm going to make a copy canvas layer. That way we're working off a copy, and I'm going to go and lightly blend out those edges. And it's okay here to kind of drag some of the background color into the bush because it kind of creates a natural highlight for the bush itself. We're just getting rid of that hard line from the background too. And working off of copy canvas layer screenshots will be so much easier for you in case you mess up. I always like to have at least be be working off at least one copy that way, just in case I don't like it and end up not being able to go back for whatever reason. I can always get rid of it and try again. That is a really important tip I can give you. And we're just going in and repeating that process down here, kind of dragging it in, adding a little bit. Actually, may color drop that a little bit, bring that up here. So that's fun. I'm going to get rid of that. Then we're going to go in and repeat the process down here, just adding some details, and going in with a slightly smaller brush will give us even more detail. Kind of slightly blending that out. Repeat the same process over here. And this sandy color, I'm going to drag and drop. Oops, that's way too big. Bring it up there. And now I'm going to blend that out. And that way, now I'm using colors that I didn't even have in the palette, but we created through our different overlays, which is really fun. Gives you something really unique too. Just puff that out just a little bit. Bushes are kind of similar to clouds in a way. Kind of a similar shape. They've just got, leaves. Well, they're very different in real life. Clouds and bushes are two very different things. It's funny though, they're kind of the same shape though. Puffy top and a flat bottom. That sounded funny. I am ridiculous, guys. I don't know if you have caught that yet, but my sense of humor it's a little out there, but I enjoy it. I'm going to go in with probably 4 or 5% size. Go down to about 35% or so opacity. We're going to lightly blend the grass out as well. Kind of just dragging that down, kind of creating like a curved motion right in here. Creating a little bit of texture. Okay, so now that we've got this down, we're going to create our trees. So adding a new layer, I'm going to go to this shade of black, which is actually a really dark green, but I almost think it's too dark. And we're going to lighten it up a little bit. So this will be in your palette when this comes out. Actually, that may be a little too light. I don't know. Let's try that. If not, we'll find out very soon. So I'm going to turn that trace layer back on. It might work. I don't know. So when painting palm trees, it's always helpful, trees and just in general, is to create like a center line. That way you have something to kind of build on. I'll make that a little bit smaller. Kind of just creating a slight fan shape as we go down. And they kind of taper right there in the point, and I'm just adding a couple little ones, and we're going to make that just a little bit smaller. Oh, that's why. Much better. No, actually, I think I kind of like it. We're going to leave it. So we're just going to repeat that same process. And it'll help too if you turn the canvas a little bit. We're just kind of doing different strokes. A lot of them, and I'll repeat that just so you can see it, are kind of like that shape. And I'm just kind of doing it all over the place. And make sure to do them a little bit over the top. Now the top ones too, something to make it look a little bit more realistic. So when the top ones are going more down, so if the center line is right there and these are like this, it'll kind of help to have it like that. That way it'll look a little bit more realistic as it goes down, but a little tangent there. And the more of these like itty bitty baby ones you put in there, the more realistic it'll look too. It'll look kind of fringy, kind of like it's blowing in the wind, which is kind of cool. Makes it look much more realistic. Cool. Okay, we'll repeat this up here. That one I'm gonna make a little bit thicker. Make that a little bit smaller size brush. And definitely if your paint strokes get too big, don't be afraid to make the paintbrush smaller. I don't know. I think that may still be too light. Yeah, I like that better. I'll put that color in the... I'm going to drag and drop it now and save it. There we go. I'll get rid of the other one before the end. So we'll come back over here and add some more dots. I meant leaves because I'm looking at that random dot that I want to cover up that I just put down. I don't know if you guys do this, but sometimes when I'm thinking one word but I'm looking at something else, I'll say something else rather than what I should be saying, which is kind of funny. Going in and repeating that same process from the other side. Only this one I think is kind of a little bit further away. Kind of just letting our painting tell us how it is. And I may add, we're going to be crazy here again, and add another one. This is our little world. And we're gonna, and if this one has an extra palm tree leaf, then that's what it is. I should do a painting with a full palm tree at some point, but they do make really nice border edges. We're gonna add just a couple more leaves over here. Kind of just fill that in a little bit more. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna be crazy here. We're gonna get rid of this. And we're gonna put it down. Yeah, much better. You don't have to do that in your own painting, but that's what I wanted to do. There we go. Yes, I like that much better. Okay, so now we're going to go in and fill in the rest of the bushes. And I think the easiest thing we're going to do, go back to the damp brush. We're going to use this color right here. That's the third color in the third row. Actually, I may need... Let's go to the fourth color in the third row instead. Let's get rid of that completely. Okay, starting over again. We're going to go to the fourth color in the third row. Let's start creating our bushes. You're basically just going to create some tapping motions, create some different size paint strokes over top. It's going to kind of look weird the first couple times you do it, but I promise if you do it a lot, it'll get really, really easy, but not easy on your wrists. I will say that. It's probably the most, well, next to the grass is one of the more repetitive things, but it'll be nice because we can copy and paste this. In the grass, we cannot. So we're actually going to split that up and make another bush right there. So to kind of create the edge of that, you're going to take the blending brush again. You're going to lightly blend that out. This layer, we don't really care too much about getting rid of all of the texture. We kind of just want to create some variegation. And we're going to just kind of lightly blend that edge. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy and paste it over all of these other bushes. I'm going to turn that down. We can kind of play with the colors a little bit, create some more depth. We're going to copy and paste that one. We'll flip it to the other side. Oh yeah. Copy and paste that again. Flip it over here. We're going to make that one lighter. And then for the last one, we're going to add just a little bit right there. Okay, so we're going to collapse all those layers. Just making sure that the original bush layer is not in there, otherwise you'll have a really hard time blending that out. But we're just collapsing all of the copied layers together now, the leaf layers. We're just kind of going to lightly blend those edges out. And this way I'll make sure that everything looks different, similar, and definitely from the same painted hand, I mean. But we just did a lot at once, and we got rid of a lot of tapping, so that will save you in the long run. So we're basically just going to repeat that same process, only we're going to go into overlay in this new layer, and we're going to go to this white yellow color. This is a really fun trick to get highlights too. So you see that color right there? I'm going to turn that down just a little bit. I'm going to color grab that, turn that off, and now we have a highlight. That way it's in the same shade of colors. We didn't have to like invent anything or pull a new color out of the air from our color wheel, but it kind of allows us to work within the same palette that we were working before. So this new layer of leaves we're putting down will be not as dense. These are going to be more just detailed on the top. This is kind of be what the light is hitting. So it won't be hitting quite as much over there. So we're just going to fill that in. I'm going to blur that out again. Just kind of lightly going in and blending that out. The scene feels so bright and tropical already. I love it. So we're going to copy and paste these over. And see, like, that's too bright. So what we can do, change saturation just a little bit. Turn it down. There we go. That way that better matches that bush. And you can have all kinds of fun picking different colors. I'm actually going to color grab that. We're going to add just a couple more paint strokes. That way it doesn't look like just a copy and paste. And this is where you can really go in and change the detail. We're kind of just, you know, using the other ones more of as a base to put our details on. That way we kind of save our hands working smarter and not harder. Okay, so once that's on there, we're going to copy and paste that again. I'm going to flip it, put it over there. We're going to just lightly blend those edges away. I'm going to color grab that again. And definitely feel free to pause too if you need to catch up, or if you are working on something else too. That is awesome. I kind of think it would be cool to do this as like a draw this in your own style, or just like a paint with me. That way you can work on your own stuff too and have this in the background. But I just thought it would be kind of fun to do something else today. Something that's a little less structured. It's really easy to fall into routine, and routines definitely help keep us structured. Sometimes it's fun to break that structure, and I think that's really important as an artist, to always be willing to follow the rules and then throw the rules out. So I'm going to put that over there, and that's kind of crossing over that, so I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to color grab that again. And lightly fill that in. I'm going to grab this too. Fill some of these dark spaces up. We're going to leave a little bit of that dark edge just because I like the way it looks. And now we have our bushes. We're going to collapse these new bush layers together. We don't want to attach them to this layer yet, so don't collapse that yet. So we're just going to work on what we just did. Go to about 7% opacity. No, sorry, 7% size, about 30% or so opacity. And then just lightly blend those areas out. This, we can keep a little bit of the texture. We don't want to get rid of all of it. Okay, now we're going to add the flowers. In a new layer, we're going to grab this pink shade, which is the 6th color in the 3rd row. Oops, not burnt tree. Definitely don't want that in this painting. Go to damp brush again. And basically, like the leaves, we're apparently still using green. We're going to get rid of that. Now we're cooking. Get this roast a cooking. Poor pheromone. So for flowers, we are going to put these just on the top in just little tap motions. And it'll be a little more sparse just on the edges, but you'll kind of want to just keep the flowers on the top and a little bit through the sides, but the more the sides you go through, I would make them a little more sparse. You won't see as many flowers on a plant at the bottom, mostly through the middle and the top. But this is your world, so if you want flowers on the bottom, put them on the bottom. Who am I to tell you where to put them? Oh my gosh, I'm ridiculous. And I'm not even caffeinated, can you believe it? Okay, so that's looking pretty good to me. So I'm going to take the blur brush again, and we're going to lightly blend that out. Not getting rid of a whole lot. This one you don't want to get rid of a whole lot of the texture, so I'm using a really light hand. We just kind of want to make sure that it all kind of matches. Then I'm going to take another layer. I'm going to use this, put a little bit of this middle shade of pink here. So the first color in the 4th row. We're not going to do even half as many. That's still too small. Nope, that was even worse. There we go. It's a little big, but it's whatever. And you kind of want to just highlight the clusters that we made. We don't want to put even half as much color and get rid of, we don't want to get rid of the base. We just want to kind of highlight it. It's looking pretty good. So we're going to take that and just lightly blend it out. Kind of just repeating what we did with the step before. And now, in another layer of flowers, this is the last layer of flowers, we're going to take that bright color and do even less than, oops, that's a weird shape. Let's get rid of that. That was a little overexcited. We're just doing some light touches of color on the top just to really bring out those highlights even further. I love painting landscapes. You can really get lost in your own little world. Which sounds like the tagline to my life. Lost and confused, or dazed and confused. Oh my goodness. Anyways. How do I put up with myself? I don't know. Anyways, so now that we've got our flowers, that's looking pretty good. We're going to collapse the flower layers together, and I'm going to copy and paste them, and I'm going to flip them, and we're going to put them on this bush right here. And I think I'm going to change the color of these two just to shake it up a little bit. What color should they be? I think it should be like a peachy color. I think they're a little bright, so we're going to turn that down. Yeah, maybe. No, I like the peach better. Yeah. So what I'm going to do with this, since this is a whole new color and we don't have this in our palette, I'm just going to color drop it. And add some flower color here. Just to kind of variegate it from the other bush to make it not look so much like just a copy and paste. But you can really, this is an easy way to replicate texture without killing your arms. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't love hurting myself in the attempts of good art. So, so I'm going to copy and paste that again. We're going to flip that. And I'm going to just put that over that one. I'm going to change the color. Oops, nope, that's not right. Nope, I'm going to get rid of that. So we're going to grab the other pink one and just move it down. I'm going to make maybe, I don't know. I'm kind of feeling a purple maybe. Turn that down. Yeah, I like that. I may turn down the opacity just a little bit too. Yep, and that kind of softens it a little bit. So I'm going to put all three of those on the same layer now. So now we've got, you know, the three different layers. We've got the flowers, the highlights, and then the middle of the bush itself. So now we're going to work on the grass a little bit. So I think I'm going to make another copy canvas layer. I'm going to put that underneath the traced layer. Make sure that's still separate. Why is that? Oops, it got attached. So let's try that again. Paste. Okay. Yep, now we're good. Okay, so I'm going to go under here and we're going to start creating our grass. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is add another new layer. We're going to go to overlay. We're going to take this, let's take this white bright color, the damp brush, about 3% size, and opacity about 30% or so, somewhere around there, between 30 and 34%. And I'm going to turn, actually, I'm going to turn it up. We're going to go to 50%. Actually, I'm going to go up even more. Let's go to 60%. There we go. Now we're cooking. I'm going to add some highlights here. Just kind of bringing out that grass. I'm going to kind of take it into the bushes as well, just to kind of match the textures. We're going to leave a couple of areas of darkness that'll kind of help to add to the hilly look. And I'm going to kind of create like a bowed look right up in here, kind of like a boomerang shape, but not that dark. Actually, now it's too dark, so let's lower that opacity. Just adding a little bit more to the trees. Gonna add a little bit more to the shoreline. And I think a bit more here. I think we're good. So I'm gonna take the blending brush and lightly pulling that out. Not getting rid of all of the texture, just kind of softening it a little bit. So we're going to take actually another copy canvas layer. And then I'm going to start creating some blades of grass and using the damp brush. Go down to like 1%, probably about 70% opacity. I'm going to start creating some side to side, up and down paint strokes, pulling color from the top and middle of the stroke, or from going from, you know, the top to the bottom, and pulling some of that color in between will really help to create a really realistic looking grass. And I have tried grass a bunch of different ways, but I always come back to this method, even though it's probably the most monotonous of it. And I'm sorry for all of the tapping, but I just feel like it gives the best look. So tap, 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 tap. Kind of just bring in some of that texture. Kind of just going back and forth. That'll create some squiggles that are appreciated. And I like dragging some of this upper color down too, because it'll help it look more realistic, and then bringing some of the lighter color up into the dark. It'll make it look like the grass is in front or behind. You can get some really cool effects, so definitely play with it. You guys are enjoying this tutorial so far. Definitely let me know below. I'm a little self-conscious just because it's my first time really trying it this way. Usually what I do is I will paint, you know, 1 or 2 different versions of the piece and then pick the best and then create a voiceover for it. And this time we're kind of just doing it as we go. So this is kind of exciting. Everything, I feel like I kind of live in a world that's overly controlled. And it's of my own doing, but sometimes it's kind of fun just to let loose. And Lucy LaDuca's song "Let Loose" is running through my head right now. I don't know if it wasn't running through your head then, it definitely will be now. And I'm not going to even attempt humming it because that would be copyright infringement, and that's not what I'm going for on this channel. So already enough copyrighted material out there. Let's do something new. Let's let loose in the spirit of that. I love this. This brush is probably one of the most versatile. You can create so many different textures and effects with it. I almost thought about doing a video specifically on grass, but I was worried I was going to bore everyone, but I find grass interesting. What do you guys think? Do you find grass interesting? Even like saying it out loud doesn't sound interesting, but I just love learning things. So, and I'm going to kind of create the same motions, just maybe a little bit more light-handed over the sand area, where the grass and the sand meet, just because I want it to kind of look like scrub grass growing. Yeah, kind of just like scrubby in those areas. I'm going to be careful not to do what I just did. I can fix it, thankfully, but you don't want to just go like this because it'll create like a loopy motion, which you definitely don't want. A lot of times when I'm painting landscapes, I know grass is always unavoidable, but it kind of hurts my hands, so I try to figure out how many places can I stick flowers that will cover up areas of monotonous detail that I don't really want to do, but has to be done. I don't know if you guys are like that with your own paintings, but I'm kind of like that with hands too. Like, I will do everything in my power not to have to paint hands. We'll figure out a pose or put a flower in front of it, flower pot. I know what sounds good. Let's put a muff over her hands. That way I don't even have to draw some noodle arms. And I am ridiculous. Sorry, I'm getting so off track blending this. These are the things that go through my head while I'm painting. I don't know what you guys think about. Usually I listen to music or a podcast or I watch YouTube. So now we are going to go up to the beach, and I'm going to just create some back and forth movement just to create a little bit of definition around the shoreline. I'm going to actually take the opacity down. So, starting to look good. So now we are going to take a new layer. We're going to put it in overlay. Using that same shade of white we were just using. I'm going to actually know what I want to do. We're going to take this peachy color. That's the second color in the first row. And very, very lightly, probably with about 1% size and about 50%, 40% or so opacity, we're going to lightly start sketching in the waves. And you want to do this really light-handedly because it can get really crazy really fast. We're just kind of going back and forth, letting the color kind of build up. And the way I have this brush created is it kind of drops off a little bit, so it won't always lay down a heavy amount of color. Your first initial laydown will give you the most color. Just kind of creating some definition in the water. Yeah, it's starting to look good. So just gonna start adding some heavier lines. The closer to you get to shore, the more white you're gonna start seeing. Slightly building up those highlights. I'm going to take the blending brush and just lightly, oops, that's way too much. Take it to about 14% or so and just lightly blend over those areas. Now we're going to create a more defined edge line. So using that same shade of white again, actually, should I have done that to begin with? No. Nope, let's get rid of that. So using that same shade of white. Actually, I'm going to go even smaller. I'm kind of just going kind of a small zigzaggy motion, playing with pressure. And I'm going to take this across the shoreline. Really kind of just overlapping those just a little bit, and it'll look really realistic if you kind of create a couple of lines in front of each other and in back of each other, especially closer to the shore. And closer to the shore, you're going to see more of this white rollover where the wave is starting to roll over a little bit, which is a really cool effect. And I'm kind of just picking up the brush and letting it drop a little bit for that, I want to say messy look. But I'll do it over here, that way it's out of the way. But like if you drop it, you kind of get like a dot, and that looks like the wave is starting to roll over. Now on these little lines, like, and I'm going to do it real thick here so you can see it, but this right here, if you take and go just a little bit smaller and do on the very underside of each of those lines, it really starts to look like a wave crashing over. So that was kind of a cool little technique tip, Tim's tip for you. And I don't want to go like super overboard with it, so just gonna kind of, and then I'm gonna take very, very lightly and just blend. I'm not gonna really blend out the front ones because I kind of like how it looks. So yeah, I am happy. So we're gonna add another layer. We're gonna use overlay, and then I'm just gonna kind of create a small little highlight underneath of the sun. And then just blend it out a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to start adding some more highlights to the piece. Sorry for the, got a little bit noisy there. So we're going to add another new layer, going to overlay, and then we're going to probably go to about 4%, 50% or so opacity. And I'm going to lightly sketch over these areas. Just kind of going in that same motion down to the base. Just kind of creating a, and the overall shape that I'm doing is kind of something like this. It's a little more rounded. We're going to lightly blend that out. We don't want to get rid of all of the texture. Just a little bit of it. That area I'll probably soften in a moment, but actually I need just a little bit more opacity. So go back to about 20%. A little bit more, actually. Even more. Let's go up to 40%. There we go. That's what I want. Sometimes it just takes some adjustment, so I'm sorry about that. So we've got our highlights started. Here I'm going to get rid of that. Kind of just soften that area up a little bit. So now I'm going to take another copy canvas. I'm going to add some special effects. I'm going to do, let's do soft light. Let's pick this maroony color. Go to soft airbrush. We're going to kind of create a really deep U, and this is going to help create a little bit more of a vignette around the edges. Kind of just doing it slightly off center. Then we're going to go to Gaussian blur and blur it out. Probably to about 27% or so. And then we're going to take the layer opacity down to about 29-30% or so. Now I'm going to add another layer. We're going to put it in, let's start with hard light and see where that takes us with that same color, and do it even lighter around the edges. Kind of just doing it on the two sides, and then going back to Gaussian blur and blurring it out to about 33% and taking the opacity of that layer. Let's do about 30% or so. Maybe, if I can get it there. There we go. Okay, so we're going to do another copy canvas layer. This is where our finishing details are going to come into play. We are going to add some like scrub grass. I think we're going to go use the water pen. I'm just going to grab a color here. Let's grab like that color. And we're going to lightly, let's just grab this color here. And let's just lightly add some grass. This will kind of just help pull the two textures together. Then I'm going to pull that color. Actually, let's pull that highlight color. I'll need a lighter color right here. Yeah. We're going to grab this highlight color and put it over top of the new dark area. Grab that highlight and bring it over there. We're going to grab this highlight. And then we're going to take the blending brush and lightly blend just the edges of the grass. That way it kind of just, you know, melts in there. We don't want to completely get rid of it, but just kind of matching that texture up with the grass here. Okay. And then I'm going to take soft light again. We're going to go back to that black color. That is the fourth color in the second row. Go back to damp brush. it to about 40% or so, and then using that same banana motion like this, kind of like a smile, a sad face. We're kind of making a sad face. We're gonna just kind of lightly add some more shadow, and I'm going to add some shadow at the base of each of the bushes, kind of just going up and down. Really gives it some dimension, especially in the shadow areas. I'm going to go to this bottom one, and then we're going to go to the one over here. Just kind of put it anywhere you feel like may have gotten too light. It needs a little bit of depth. We're going to put a little bit in the sand too. Yes. Oh, yeah. Yep. That's exactly what I wanted. So now I'm going to go about 9% or so, 27% opacity, and we're going to lightly blend that out. Just kind of softening. We don't want to get rid of all of the texture we just created, because I actually kind of like it a little bit. Kind of adds a little bit of visual interest. Okay, so looks like right there. That's why pulling back a little bit will always help a little bit too. Just smoke that out a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to take another copy canvas. Paste. Now I'm going to add a little bit more detail highlight to everything. Go back to like 2%, bring that up to like 70%. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Actually, let's go to blur, about 1%. We're gonna just soften any layer, like crunchy layers of grass. Sometimes damp brush will leave a little bit of stamp, and I'm just kind of want to hide it a little bit. Kind of just grabbing any of those new areas. Just grabbing any highlight or depth you think need to be added. Now that we have our new copy canvas layer, we are going to grab. So in a new layer, we are going to grab that, make that a little bit bigger. Bring some of those lighter details down there. It'll look really good once, because we just made those dark edges. It'll kind of bring the vignette, make the vignette stand out a little bit more by adding these lighter details into that vignette area. Makes the vignette a little less obvious too that we put a ring around it. Lightly blend that out. I'm gonna grab some of that. Repeat that same process over here. Okay, the last thing I want to do to this painting, I want to add some sailboats. So we're gonna make that a little bit darker so I can see them. Let's bring that opacity to about 29% or so. And then I'm gonna create a new layer on top. That way we can just paint over top of them. I feel like the easiest thing to make these, we'll probably just use the water pen. And let's grab this maroon color. That's the third color in the second row. We're just gonna trace over the sailboat outline. I love sailboats. This is actually was my idea for this piece, was I wanted a sunset with more sailboats. It's kind of fun. I painted the pre-piece last night, and I almost used that audio, but I decided I didn't like it, so I was like, well, this is a good practice piece for me to like talk and get out all of the jitters, but I think this worked out pretty well. What do you guys think? It's a little bit more loose and a little less scripted than my other tutorials are, but I feel like this was definitely fun, and it was fun for me to talk to, so make sure that's connected and not floating. Actually, I'm going to add another one right there, another one right here, another one right there. You can really just add as many little connector points as you want, but oops. Ooh, they would be, we should call that one the SS Titanic, because that ship is definitely going to sink if it's got no front. And I'm sorry if I've offended anyone in the comments, but it was 100 years ago, and I love the movie Titanic, so I hope that makes up for my poor taste joke. Yes. Okay. That may be a little dark, so we're going to lighten it up just a little bit. Yep. And then I'm going to copy and paste this again. And put another one over here and flip it. Make it just a little bit smaller. Actually, I'm going to lighten this one up too. Yeah. Do we need a third one? I'm going to put the third one in just to see how it looks. Because in the original painting, I had more of the background showing, but I kind of like this better. So let's make this really small. So it's really far back out there, and we're going to lighten it up quite a bit. Bring up the saturation. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Okay. So the last thing for us to do, I'm going to get rid of the trace layer. I'm going to take another copy canvas layer and then paste it again. So now we've got two of them. I'm going to take the top one and put it into black and white. This is one of my favorite ways to add highlights. This will be our last set of highlights before we sign it, I think. I have a lot of palettes open too, don't judge me. We're gonna use that first white color again. Gonna go back to the damp brush. Make it about 2% size and about 60% opacity. And we're gonna just lightly, kind of like what we did for the shoreline. Just lightly highlight that just a little bit. And just going back and forth, creating some variegation. You don't want to just, just like straight lines. That's definitely not what we want. We just kind of want some texture here. This is really where your painting's going to come to life. I always get really excited when I put stuff in black and white and add more highlights. Sometimes it's kind of hard, and when you've been staring at something for so long, to see value properly. So putting it into black and white kind of gives you a reset. Kind of like smelling coffee beans when you've been in a candle store. Although from the way I'm talking, it might be time for more coffee. But basically, we're just focusing on highlighting the bottoms of the clouds. Oh, I love that. So we're going to go here. Just add a little bit of highlighting to the shore. And we're kind of doing that boomerang banana shape, like back and forth, up, sad face highlight. The sad face highlight. I feel like that should be a thing, That's funny. I feel like that's kind of the answer for everything. If you're feeling sad, it's time to get out your paintbrush. Time for some sad face highlights. I hope you have managed to survive to the end of this painting, listening to me ramble. So I'm gonna add just a little bit more to the ocean. Kind of just creating the illusion of some choppy water. But I think, as they say, red sky at night, sailor's delight, red sky in the morning, Sailors take warning, so this is like a perfect night to sail. That was a heavy choice. We're gonna get rid of that. And feel free to experiment with as little or as much highlight as you'd like. And I don't know yet. I don't know if I'm gonna keep it, but I'm gonna add just a little bit more to the grass. We're kind of just doing the sad face highlight. Kind of creating some different shapes within the grass itself. Now we're going to go and blend it out. I'm going to use like a 5 or 6% and about 30% opacity, and we're going to just lightly blend away any edges. I think I tried to say edge lines and edges at the same time. Don't know what that about came out as. And I think we're about done. So, are you ready? I'm excited to see this. Oh yeah, oh wow, yes. So let's see without and then with. Yeah, that is a fabulous way to add details, and you can do that with just about any different painting technique. I love putting it into black and white and adding color. I'm just blending out anything that looks harsh. And I think we have, is it too early to say? Going through, this edge is a little hard, you can still see through that. So what I'm gonna do, if that should happen to you, we're gonna copy canvas again, and I'm just gonna lightly blend that out. Sometimes things happen. You talk to yourself and sometimes you leave a hard edge in there every once in a while. Bound to happen. I'm just gonna lightly blend over that too. That's looking a little rough. Done. We're gonna take, we're just gonna add some more grass strokes in here. Kind of just diffusing any hard edges we accidentally created. I kind of want that to look scrubby, so that is a perfect effect over that. I almost said stubby. I guess you could have stubby grass too. I meant to say scrubby. And the last thing we need to do is to sign our painting. I'll shrink that up. All right, I think we are done. We have it finished painting. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I had so much fun talking to you like this, and this kind of feels more like a live, like a going live kind of situation, and I think I would absolutely love that. So that's definitely in the works for the future. And if you decide to recreate this painting or decide to paint this painting in your own style and are on Instagram, I would absolutely love to see it. So please tag me at Timstarstudio. If you have any questions about anything that we did, or have any comments, or if you enjoyed the painting and this video itself, please like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, I'll see you in the next video, friend. Happy painting!